Howdy, folks. I'm Brian,
I'm Amber.
and here's some Monday morning Reddit for you. Monday afternoon? I don't know, whatever time it is for you. Let's get started. Our first letter is titled, Am I the Jerk for Calling My Brother a Sore, Slow Loser? Throwaway account. My wife Irene is very fit. She likes working out and has a proper exercise regime, etc. Regime. She has a proper exercise regime. She's like over here, like ruling the exercise world. She believes that if she feels good, she looks good, and she feels good when working out, so who am I to stop her? My brother Will spent the later half of last year going through a messy divorce and now needs a place to stay. Though my brother and I aren't very close, I figured he would only stay for a couple of weeks until he got back on his feet. Will is a typical gym rat. He's always on a very strict diet, always working out, and bragging about his gains. I've worked out with him a few times, and he's a little obnoxious. He's always mad at you if you don't work out at his pace and is always trying to correct your form. He's pretty fit and muscular guy, but I don't like exercising with him. Will has been pushing Irene to work out with him because according to him, she won't be able to keep up with him. Irene mostly just shrugs him off and laughs and tells him that she would love to work out with him. Irene works out in the mornings 3 times a week and then does a run later in the evening. But she's been busy this past week and hasn't been able to stick to her usual schedule. Will thinks that she is making excuses because she doesn't want to be embarrassed by him. Oh my goodness. Like, how full of himself does he have to be? Again, Irene just laughs him off like she should. Don't take him seriously. About 2 days ago, Irene and Will went on an early morning run. I didn't go with them, but the first thing he heard when Will entered the house was, "The only reason why I couldn't keep up with you, Irene, is because you were sweating too much." Ah! Imagine that's your excuse right there. The reason why you couldn't keep up with someone is because they were sweating. And apparently Irene must have been sweating so much that he was like drowning in her sweat as she was like running ahead of him, and he's just like, "I can't keep up, I'm drowning."
Yeah, it's like sweats an entire river.
Yeah, an entire river. It was just too much for him. I found this extremely comical and kind of just laughed him off. Irene rolled her eyes and went to take a shower. But why bother, Irene? You were sweating too much. No, maybe that's the exact reason. So I thought that conversation would die. However, Will just kept bringing up my wife's sweat. My wife went to work and he told her to make sure she doesn't sweat through her clothes. Or when she called me in the middle of the day, he yelled, "Tell the sweaty bee that I say hi." Of course, the bee comment aggravated me, and I told him to knock it off and stop acting like a child. I thought that was the end of that. And your expectations, Opie, about this whole situation, you're like, oh, this is the end of it. This is the end of it. It isn't the end. But he just kept going. By the end of the day, I was just tired of his comments, but Irene seemed rather unfazed by them. When she went to serve him food, he made a comment about her sweating into the food. At this point, I was at my wit's end, and I told him to stop acting like a sore, slow loser and eat his food. I love it. Will, of course, got angry and said that the only reason why he was going slower than usual was because he was distracted by my wife's unhygienic sweat. Yeah, unhygienic sweat. She was sweating green toxins and it made me just super distracted. I didn't know your wife was a lizard. I don't. Lizards don't sweat green stuff. Lizards don't have sweat glands, so don't ask me where this came from. I don't know. Irene looked a little bit offended by this, and I told Will that I would kick him out if he made another comment like that. He's been super mad ever since, jokingly told the story to a mutual friend, and they said that they agreed with Will. And maybe I shouldn't be so harsh. What's there to agree with Will on this? Update, I didn't expect this many responses. Thank you for all the advice. I've decided to kick him out. He will be staying in a nearby hotel. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk.
I think we understand why Will is getting a divorce.
Yes.
Not to be mean to poor Will here. He's having a rough go of it, but this isn't helping his situation. Why does he feel the need to bring up her sweat as he's the only person he's convincing here is himself that this is the reason, right? No one else is buying your nonsense, Will. I've run a lot with a lot of people, and I've never once been like, hey, that person's sweat is so distracting, I can't run anymore. My legs do not cease to function when there are other people running around me and sweating. This just has never happened. When I was in the Navy, we had these giant PFAs, which were, physical fitness tests, essentially, in order to continue being in the Navy, right? And there were a lot of people running, and there were a lot of people sweating. And I don't think I ever heard one person in the entire time I was there be like, hey, I couldn't run on time because someone's sweat was distracting me. I don't think that would fly. That excuse would not fly. Will is just being ridiculous. No, this is absurd. Will, stop it. Stop being absurd, Will. So no, OP, I don't think you're a jerk here. I think this was just getting out of control. But let me know what you folks think.
Well, I love how Will says that as she's serving him food.
Yeah, it's like, talk about biting the hand that feeds you. It's like, Will, come on. Don't do this. Just drop it. No one cares that you're a slow, sore loser. Not the jerk. Your mutual friend is a jerk too. When you're a guest, you act polite or you get out. I can see why he's getting divorced if he thinks insulting the host is okay. And OP says, it rubbed me the wrong way when he insulted her when she was serving him food. Like, why would you insult the person that made your food and is currently holding your food? I know, it's just so rude. Rude. He's probably getting a divorce because his wife was sweating during workouts and he was horrified. As if people don't sweat when they work out. I just don't get this reasoning. I can honestly say not once in the tens of thousands of miles I've run in my military career did the sweat of another person slow me down or make me run poorly. This guy is an idiot. All right, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for outing my husband to his family for missing our son's birth? I'm a 26-year-old female and my husband is a 30-year-old male, Jerry, and he works in a company that requires him to travel a lot. When I got pregnant, I used to stay with my in-laws whenever he had a trip. His parents are saints. They adore me and they always offer to help with everything. They say that I'm like the daughter that they never had. Before I gave birth, Jerry told me that he had to go on a business trip and he was most likely going to miss our son's birth because he was going away for 2 weeks. I was upset, but he explained that he was doing this to be able to provide for us and our son. I wasn't okay with it, but ultimately it was his decision. Though I'm sure if he had explained to his company, they would have probably given him time off. Probably. Jerry asked me to go stay with my family instead of his because he said if they found out that he was going on a trip and missing our son's birth, they would give him grief.
It's a sign you're doing it wrong. Like, he knows what he's doing is wrong.
I agreed, but I went to stay with my family. Turned out that Jerry lied to his family about being there for our son's birth and asked them not to visit till later because he was allegedly worried about our newborn and wanted me to get rest. I love how he paints this as he's the saint here. He's like, oh, I'm just doing this for my wife's benefit, not that I'm not there. Oh my goodness. Well, last Sunday, his mom and dad finally visited and he returned from his trip and I returned home after staying with my family for a couple of weeks. We were talking about our son and Jerry's mom asked Jerry about our hospital stay. He said that I didn't stop complaining about everything and that I was being difficult to everyone. He not only does he have to lie about, this is ridiculous. He's like, oh yeah, she was just being difficult. Like, now do you think that was a good idea, Jerry? It wasn't a very good idea, Jerry. I was shocked. His mom laughed and said all women are like that after giving birth, but I told her that yes, but not all men abandon their wives during one of their most difficult times and miss their first baby's birth over a work trip that could have been easily rescheduled. Jerry's mom asked what I meant, and I told her that her son wasn't there for the birth because for his first child. She unleashed an anger upon him, and his dad joined in. A huge argument ensued, and Jerry started lashing out and then told me that we had to leave. I love how he's like, "Oh, we need to go now." I don't want to stand here and get berated by my family. In the car, he went off calling me childish and petty and for outing him. Like, his actions aren't childish and petty for being like, "Oh yeah, you whined the entire time you were in the hospital, and I know this for a fact because I was totally there." I was, really. And tattling on him like that. It's tattling. He said that I had no right to even complain because it wasn't like he was on vacation or golfing trip. He was just working hard to be able to provide for us as the breadwinner, and I should respect that and be thankful instead of stirring the pot and trying to gain his parents' sympathy while turning them against him. The only person that turned Jerry's family against Jerry was himself. I got home and started crying while arguing with him. He said that I was out of line to do what I did and act like his work isn't as important. You know, Bub, Jerry, they give time off for a reason, for important family events, because they are important. That's why there are things like paternity leave, maternity leave. These are important life events that work understands that you can miss work for. His argument holds no weight because most people are going to say that helping your wife out and being there for your child's birth is far more important than work. Most people, except for you, Jerry. You're the only one making this argument, Jerry. We stopped talking after that, and from what I understand, his parents are still pretty much upset with him and saying that I'm the reason why he's being harassed by them. Oh, yes. I think that I went too far by telling them. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk.
I mean, this is absurd. OP, you are not the jerk in this situation, at least according to me. I think that he made a really disparaging remark about you, and maybe in the heat of anger you were like, said something that you might not have normally, but he provoked you. This was an absolute provocation of your, goodwill to keep his secret quiet. And now he's being, upset that when you played fire with fire, that he got burned, right? So no, I don't think you're a jerk in this situation. Anyhow, take care and good luck. And maybe he needs to see a counselor. I mean, I think this is a little excessive. If he's going to work and feeling like work is so important that he has to miss life events and family events, then his work environment may not be a very good work environment. And he also may be under a lot of stress. But this is an excuse, him missing this important event and, lying to his family and covering things up too. But he may need some kind of counseling. He may need some kind of therapy because this isn't healthy behavior to prioritize work to such a degree. Just my thought. Anyhow, take care and good luck. Not the jerk. So he was okay with throwing you under the bus, saying that you were being difficult and expected you just to go along with his lie? He could have easily said, it was such a whirl, I can hardly remember. And at least he wouldn't have thrown you under the bus. Yeah, I mean, he didn't need to throw OP under the bus here. Yeah, my husband only has 2 things to say about me while giving birth. She was amazing, and you didn't poop yourself, babe. This is kind of harkening back to an episode that I did a little while ago. And was actually there, and I really don't believe either of those things are true. All right, folks, it is tea time. Tea time. So, Amber, what kind of tea do you got this morning?
Water.
I don't have tea either, which means that it's pretty easy to guess what I have if I don't have water either. Let me know what kind of beverage you're drinking. I'm drinking coffee. So, as you can see, I did Wordle in 3 here. And, yeah. What do you call a pony with a sore throat?
A little horse?
A horse. Oh my goodness. That's absolutely terrible. This book is full of terrible puns. All right, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Add My Ex-Husband's Name to the Title of the Bookshop I Inherited from My Father? Context. My ex-husband Kevin, a 37-year-old male, and I, a 35-year-old female, separated 2 years ago. We shared custody of our 2 kids, 9 and 5. My father owned a small bookstore in our hometown that I inherited recently. To be honest, the shop didn't bring a lot of money and I already had a stable income. Kevin found out and called an urgent meeting. He came over to my place and said that he wanted to talk about the bookshop. I said, "What about it?" And he told me that now that the shop is officially mine, that I should add his name onto the title and split whatever profits I get 50-50. I was in shock and I told him that he had to be joking, but he reminded me of when his dad passed and left him inheritance money and that he ended up sharing it with me. Therefore, I owe him half of my inheritance now. I can see why you folks are getting divorced. I didn't know what to say, but I mentioned to him that yes, I did share his inheritance, but that was while we were married, and now it's a different dynamic, and we no longer share anything, except for the kids. He got upset and argued that I was technically owing him regardless of whether we still were together or not, and urged me to consider because the money that we got would be going towards the children anyways. We had a loud argument and I ended up saying that this will only happen in his dreams and telling him to wake up, and then told him to leave. He tried to lash back, but I insisted that he leave. He and his mother called me saying that I lied, deceived, and stole from her son in the past and that I owe him. OP, I mean, if you literally did lie, deceive, and steal from him, then maybe you do, but I think this is probably an exaggeration on their parts. Not just that, but I said that I should be rid of my pettiness and resentment towards Kevin and do the right thing for once. For once, OP, for once, just do the right thing. We fought on the phone yesterday, and I was shocked when my 9-year-old son called me a thief out of nowhere. This is wrong on so many levels here. You do not involve kids in your disputes. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. This escalated the fight because Kevin got the kids involved. I think technically I do owe him because I can't deny that he shared his inheritance with me, but I think that the circumstances are different now. Like when we used to share our salaries, but I don't expect him to do the same anymore. Still, I might be delusional one, so am I the jerk? And he has no background in laws, but he says he knows his rights, which should be enough. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk.
So I guess, it depends on what you mean by separated. If you're actually divorced, then no, he doesn't owe you anything. If this is actually separation and you're still technically married, I think that you're going to have a lawyer involved with this at that point in time. And I think that this is going to stem into legal advice. And I don't give legal advice on this channel. I just make smart aleck comments. There's some nuance here. I don't think that OP is the jerk for wanting their inheritance. And they make a really good point that the dynamic is different. They aren't sharing finances anymore. They have everything in their own names. And I think that that's an important distinction there. Like, you don't get to claim, partial inheritance and stuff like that when you've decided to separate your finances out entirely, right? And maybe it depends on how much he ended up giving you for that inheritance, right? At the time, you two were together, and it doesn't sound like you probably squirreled the money away or anything like that. And if you have that money kicking around, and you really feel like this is kind of like a situation where he's going to hold this over your head, then maybe just give him his part of the inheritance back, and then that will settle most of all this dispute at that point in time. But I think that this is kind of absurd for him to outpull this whole, you need to share 50% of the profits with me, when you aren't sharing paychecks, because this would be boiling down to a paycheck. I mean, I think that his expectations here are pretty unreasonable all in all. But again, this depends whether you mean you're actually divorced or separated, because then you're going to have potentially some kind of legal obligation to, work with him in, inheritance. Like it just really depends on the laws of the state and all kinds of things in that respect. So I don't have a straightforward answer on whether he's legally right, but I don't think that on the moral grounds of things, with you two having separate finances and everything, that you're morally obligated to share with him. So that's kind of my view. Anyhow, take care and good luck. Not the jerk. Unless you threaten him to get half of his father's inheritance, doing a 50-50 was his choice. You don't owe him anything, but you need to be careful with his behavior and what he says to your kids about this. You might want to talk to a lawyer and get proof of everything, the demands and parental alienation. Yeah, this is for sure not cool to involve the kids at all. I know I said that before, but kids do not need to be involved with your adult arguments. And the fact that he's trying to use your kids against you is just slimy. It's just plain slimy. Yes, document, document, document. The calls, the threats, the flying monkeys involving the kids. OP, you owe him nothing. He chose to share his inheritance. That's it. Period. Even if you were fully committed, you still don't need to share yours, given that you're separated. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving me a like. And if you didn't, consider giving me a dislike. Happy Monday. I hope you have a great start of your week. I hope that everything goes splendidly for you. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.
The demons are coming for us. They are everywhere. They're inside of our house haunting it, creating noisy distractions for us.
Exercise the demons for now.
Amber has exorcised the demons.